Hi guys! Today we are going to be doing our October milk test for my very small herd of Nigerian dwarf goats. Currently, I only have 2 does in milk that I need to test. I had 3, but I sold 1, so I only have 2, so this shouldn't take very long. Right here is everything that I need for my milk test. So I have my large milking bucket that I usually milk with. I have 2 mason jars. I have a ladle. I have 2 of these test tubes that are labeled number 1 and number 2. A pen. And then of course, my goat binder. You will also need a certified scale along with all of the other items that I mentioned in order to weigh your milk. You also might need a tester depending on what plan you are on. Okay, so goat number 1 here is Nellie. So I put my milk bucket under her and I'm gonna go ahead and just milk her as I normally would. My hands are kind of cold, so she's probably not going to be very happy about that. But I'm just going to go ahead and milk her as I normally would. You want to make sure that you milk every last drop out of her udder because every drop counts towards her final weight. So here's a better look at my scale and what it does. And you have to have your scale certified by your DHIA in order to use it for milk testing. So mine is certified and it is good until January until I have to get it recertified. And this is just to make sure that all of your weights are accurate. Okay, so I've got my scale connected to my bucket here and I'm just going to change it to pounds, lift it up, oh, and it reset itself. So hold on, we're gonna set it to pounds, try that again. Okay, so this is saying 4.2 pounds. So what I didn't do there is I didn't subtract the weight of the bucket. So make sure you always subtract the weight of the bucket so you're just getting the milk weight. So after we weigh the milk, we're going to pour it into a jar. And then we're gonna pour it back into the bucket. And then we're gonna pour it back into the jar. And this is how we mix the milk without adding any air bubbles or oxygen into it. We're just gently pouring it back and forth, and you do that 3 times. So now that it's back in the jar, we're gonna take our sample. So Nell is number 1, so you make sure you label your vial number 1 and make sure that there is preservative in the bottom, which is this orange stuff. That's going to make sure the milk doesn't go bad on its way to your test facility. So you're going to take your ladle, you're going to go directly in and directly up. That's how you're going to collect your sample. It's kind of hard in a jar like this with a small mouth, but directly in, directly up, and then you're gonna pour your milk into your vial, and you're gonna wanna fill it about halfway. So we're gonna add a little bit more into here. That's about good. Then you're gonna close the lid. You're gonna give it a little shake to get all that preservative in there, so it looks orange, like this. And this is your morning sample. So when you milk test again in the PM, you're gonna fill it up to this line. So half of your sample's from the morning and half of your sample is from the evening. So I use ADGA, that is my DHIA. So all of the different forms for each one are gonna look different, but this is what the one for ADGA looks like. So here are my goats, Nell, Vale, and then Maggie was sold, so I coded her a 2, which means sold. So she's not gonna be on here anywhere. So for here, you're gonna wanna cross out the 1 and put pre-milk. So that's your pre-milk. So that is gonna be the weights from last night's milking. And this isn't gonna go anywhere on their records. It's just to prove that they were milked out last night when you did your first milk out. So I'll put those in later. I have them written down, but I did not put them on here yet. So your second is actually gonna be your first milking weight. So Nell, her milk weighed in at 4.2, but the bucket weighs 2 pounds. So 4.2 minus 2 is 2.2 pounds of milk. So I'm gonna write 2.2 right there for her. And all we're gonna fill in are these milk weights. We're not gonna fill in any of this stuff. That is all after the milk gets tested. Next on the milk stand is Vale. So I'm gonna use the same bucket as before. And I'm just gonna milk her completely out into this bucket. Okay, well, I didn't record weighing Vale's milk, but she came out at 2.4 pounds. So I'm gonna write that right there. And then this is where I'm gonna write the weights for the evening milking, is right here. So, same thing with Vale's milk. I'm going to pour it into the jar. I'm gonna do it on the ground so I don't spill it everywhere. But I'm pouring her milk into the jar, and then from the jar into the bucket, and then from the bucket into the jar. And make sure you do this step after you weigh it, because there's going to be a lot of residue left over that's not going to be weighed, so you're not going to get an accurate weight if you weigh it after you mix it. So I have my test tube, which is labeled number 2, because Vale is number 2 for my purposes and Nell's number 1, and my ladle, and I'm going to put it straight down and straight up to grab my sample. And then we're going to put it into this test tube or test vial until it's about halfway to the line. So that looks about, I'm gonna close it so it doesn't spill, but that looks to be about halfway to the line. And you don't have to be exact with this. It's not an exact science. You just eyeball it. Oh, that looks like it's about halfway. If it's over or under halfway, that's okay. Just fill the rest up to the line with your PM milking. It's not an exact science. It's just an estimation of half AM and half PM. And the worst part about milk testing is if you dam raised. So that baby right here, this is Nell's baby. She's still nursing. But since we are milk testing today, they have to be kept separate until the PM milk test. So these two are bottle babies. I just put her in with her because so she won't be lonely. So honestly, I just let them out and I just let them roam around all day to kind of keep them distracted so they don't try to figure out ways to get back in there so she can go get all of the milk from her mom that I need for the milk test. Okay, so that's how I do my morning milk test. I'm not going to show you my evening milk test because it's going to be dark, so there won't be much to see. But that is how I do my milk testing.